So I'm here today to talk about the Gorse Action Group and sort of the history about how our group came to be and why it's successful, and then draw some parallels with Scotch broom. Right, and there's a pretty similar story with Scotch broom and Gorse, like how it was brought over from Ireland in the 1800s by Lord Bennett, and we have this core infestation in Bandon, Oregon, and it just has this seed bank this seed bank that's just been there for years and years and years, and we'll keep going. All right, and so this is just a slide to introduce myself. I work for the Coquille Watershed Association as Restoration Project Manager, and then I'm also the local Gorse Action Group Coordinator. And there's me in front of our demo plot site, and then pulling some Scotch broom on some beaches we have here. All right, and this is a slide just to give a little history again, just on Gorse and Bandon and how it has fueled catastrophic wildfires beginning in 1936, where it burnt down the whole entire city. And then we've had notable fires since then that were Gorse related as well. And Gorse has the potential to spread another 35,000 acres in Western Oregon, making it a strategic prioritization for control. And this is just a slide to just show some pictures of those fires, and and then just 1 year after a fire, it's coming right back and it's spreading even more just because there's that ground for it to cover. All right, so to get into the grid of my presentation, a few years ago, back in 2013, it was asked, is Gorse control possible? And the Gorse Action Group originally started as the Curry wildfire preparation team, and over the decades, there's just been some complacency just because Gorse has been here for so long and no one really know what to do about it. And there needed to be efforts just kind of focused on this one plant, and so came the Gorse Action Group. And then it's just become this focus initiative with over 30 members since then. And just to kind of highlight a little bit of a timeline, how the GAG came to be. After it formed, we came up with these mapping efforts with the Oregon Department of Forestry, where we use sketch mapper methods. And these are some examples of the flyovers that we have here shown on my screen. And then there was a push to make it an Oregon Solutions project. So then Kate Brown officially made it an Oregon Solutions project in 2016. And then a year later, there was a declaration of cooperation that over 30 members signed that include, state, local, federal organizations, including community members that all came together to sign this declaration of cooperation. And then from that came an effort to come up with a management plan for the Southern Oregon coast. So now we have this document that has a management plan for Gorse called the Comprehensive Multi-Level Gorse Management Plan for the Southern Oregon coast. Definitely a mouthful. And we continue to collaborate with all of these members. And this is just a slide to show, like, there's even more than this, what's on my screen. We include all the local watersheds, Coquille Watershed, Curry Watershed Partnerships, Coos Watershed, we got all the fire folks, Oregon State University, state parks, city, county. We try to include all those folks because it's all of our problem. And so we work together with a shared mission, and that shared mission is working to control and reduce the spread of gorse, minimize the impact of gorse on our economy and natural resources, and provide a successful process to share with others facing gorse infestations. All right, and so this is a slide showing how the GAG has functioned since we've started. We have some key roles, which is a meeting facilitator, and then we have, I need to move this. Okay, so yes, we got the GAG meeting facilitator, and then we have myself, the local GAG project coordinator. And then we partner with Samara Group, who are our communication professionals, and they have helped us come up with handouts. And when we were initially building our website and everything. And then along with that, we have quarterly meetings and monthly committee meetings or action teams, and such as the funding team, the science team, and the outreach team. I'm on the funding and outreach team. Those are sort of my two main things that I work on for the Gorse Action Group. And then we also have a Google Drive that we share that where all our information is placed, all of our pictures, videos, any grants we've written. It's all just in one shared spot. And then we have a GAG website, a GAG hotline, and a GAG email. So community members or landowners, homeowners that have questions about gorse, want some technical assistance, those are ways they can reach us, and we can talk to them and help them with their gorse problems, and give them the handouts they might need, and other resources they could use. And like one of our big pushes, especially this last year, was education and outreach. And this is an example of something that we've done every year for the past 3 years, is the Gorse Blossom Festival. And we've gone, we probably talked to 200 plus people just from that one festival. And it makes it sound like we're celebrating gorse, but really it's just to educate the local community on gorse. And then along with that, we had a really successful science pub night where, you can go hang out and drink a beer, but then you go and learn about gorse, and the community had so many questions for us, and it was really a really successful night. So I'm pretty proud of that. And then some newer efforts with how the GAG functions is having, a social media presence. So we've created a Facebook and Instagram this past year as well. Oops. Sorry about that, guys. All right, now I just want to highlight some of the resources that we have that have been created since the formation of the Gorse Action Group. And we have these for residents, landowners, professionals. These are all on our website. We have handouts that cover best management practices, gorse control timing, plants you can plant to compete with gorse, herbicide selection, and then examples of our projects as well. Okay, so I think to highlight how the Gorse Action Group is successful really is to highlight some of our major projects that have come because of the Gorse Action Group. And one of them is Coquille Point, where we removed gorse off of a slope. And this is U.S. Fish and Wildlife property, and the community has access to this. So it's very visible. And it's also a great example to show that you can remove gorse on slopes. And so our method with this was first mechanical removal with machines, and then we had a hand crew out there doing like the cut stump method, where you cut it and spray use herbicides on the stump. And the key to how this project was successful and didn't cause erosion, which was a problem for communities, for the local community, is that we left the roots and then we reseeded with competitive native seed. And you can see in this picture and this picture that we are getting that native competition back in the area. But along in this picture, you can still see gorse along all these beachfront homes, and they're the ones that are concerned about if they remove their gorse, you know, are their forwardings going to go away or is it going to slump? And I think having this project so visible to them, it has helped them realize that it is possible to remove gorse on slopes. And then a next project I wanted to highlight is our Highway 101 gorse removal demonstration project. And this really shows folks how, like, the different ways you can treat gorse depending on what you're trying to reclaim, such as, is it timberland? Are you trying to get some agriculture land back? You know, using herbicides versus not using herbicides, or different types of herbicides versus different surfactants as well. There's a picture here showing initial gorse removal where some was just manual and some was like, you know, just spray. And then just this last February, we worked with Abandon High School to replant some of the plots to once again bring in that competition. And this is also a very visible demonstration to the community. And any chance we get to do a tour, we always come to this project in Coquille Point to show, like, gorse control is successful and these are the ways to do it. And this is just another slide. This is an example in this picture of a trolley tour that we actually did. We partnered with, you know, the city of Bandon and some other local folks that have worked on these projects to talk about our local demo projects that we've done in the area. And that was really cool because the city of Bandon let us use their trolley, and a good handful of the community came and joined us. And then we got Carrie Prosco here talking about our demo plots, and it's been a really great experience, I think, being able to talk about what is successful with gorse removal to our community. And then this is a newer effort. When I first started working with the Gorse Action Group, it was about a year ago, and a really big push was to update the City of Bandon prohibited vegetation ordinance, because originally there was exemptions for gorse, such as you were allowed to use it as a hedgerow, or, you know, it was okay to have it if it was only, you know, so tall, like 6 inches, I think it was. And then there was this history of sending letters to the community that said, like, if you don't remove your gorse, we're going to fine you, and da-da-da. And to us, the gag, you know, we wanted to have a plan in place, partnered with the city, that wasn't just like sending threatening letters out, or just letting it be okay to have it as a hedgerow, examples like that. So it was unanimously voted on July 1st of 2019, and then it took effect the following in August. So what it did was take out all exemptions for gorse. And then the Gorse Action Group on our side was to help them come up with a plan. And there's a map here. It's kind of hard to see. I do have a page, a City of Bandon page dedicated to this whole thing on our website if you're interested in looking into this more. But the whole thing would be, you know, focus on voluntary compliance and strategic coordination, and we would take out that enforcement. Like, that would be like a last resort situation where the City of Bandon would have to enforce, you know, removing gorse on your property. And so part of this plan would be homeowners would have a vegetation management plan, and that would be they're in compliance. And that would be, you have a map of your property, and then what's your plan? Do you want to use herbicides? What kind of removal are you using? Do you have plans for revegetation? Are you reclaiming something? And everyone is going to look different. And then a huge part of this is having the code compliance officer and then the vegetation management coordinator working together. And both of these would be city abandoned employees. Right now, they do have the code compliance officer in place. And then right now, our vegetation management coordinator, it's a volunteer position, but we found a volunteer who's willing to take it on. So that's very exciting. And this is still all brand new. And then our next steps with this would be having the city abandoned to adopt the district plan, have an intergovernmental agreement with Coos County because there are urban growth boundaries just outside city abandoned city limits that it's just plots that's just covered in gorse. And that's all it is out there. And that's been like a difficult area to, group the people together to remove their gorse. And then another part of this would be having district meetings to talk about all this and explain all this and have a strategic plan for the neighborhood to remove their gorse. And it would be this kind of staggered plan where you go into District 1, remove their gorse, go into District 2 and start gorse removal there, go back to District 1, do retreatments, so on and so forth. But due to the pandemic, unfortunately, we haven't been able to start any of these district meetings. So that's kind of something we've been figuring out is like, how can we have these meetings with these neighborhoods to talk about gorse removal? So we got to figure out a way to take our efforts online, I think. I also wanted to highlight just in the past year some of our Gorse Action Group accomplishments. For example, other two really big projects that were worked on was Rainbow Rock and Harris Beach. Rainbow Rock is in Curry County, and it's just right off of Highway 101, and it was just this big face of gorse, and it was a huge contributor to gorse spreading in Curry County. And so the Curry Soil and Water Conservation District partnered with ODOT, and which is the Oregon Department of Transportation, and we got the funds to remove the gorse. And the cool thing about this project is that we used repeller crews to remove the gorse. So we had guys in harnesses, they had their chainsaws, they chainsawed down the gorse and then quickly sprayed the herbicide on the stems. And then we did the same thing with Harris Beach, which is a state park in Curry County. And so Harris Beach is actually a steep cliff facing the beach, and that's like an even scarier job for any repeller, but they went and did it, and that was so both those projects were pretty insane, and it was just amazing that we were able to accomplish them both this past year.
Hi, Rochelle. This is Mary. This is your 2-minute warning.
Okay. Well, I'll quickly go over the rest of this then. But all three of our watersheds on the Southern Oregon coast all have our early detection rapid response projects that we've worked on. And so we've been continuing that. We've been able to survey, map, and treat gorse in all three of our watersheds. And then the Oregon Department of Transportation has been removing gorse north of Bandon on Highway 101-2 with hand crews as well. And then we've been able to do multiple trainings this past year for the City Abandoned Public Works and local contractors on best management practices and weed ID and things like that. And then just engaging with a lot of people at multiple outreach events and whatnot. So looking ahead of what we got going on, so the air curtain burner demo project has been something that we've been wanting to do for a very long time, and we're finally doing it this fall. And it would be a way to dispose of gorse biomass when you remove it and hopefully kill the seeds, because seeds actually like fire, but if you burn them hot enough, we're hoping it can kill it. And then maybe this could be a project that either a watershed could take on, or maybe a contractor, has it, and then folks can go and burn all their gorse. And then we're continuing our early detection rapid response efforts. We got wildland urban interface money from the BLM to do some project planning and treatments for gorse that have a BLM nexus between like Bandon and Curry County in those areas. We're planning a landscape scale restoration project for the Elk River. And that was in one of those pictures I showed earlier that just had massive amounts of gorse. And then we're continuing project development at the landscape scale, the large outlier scale, and other mapping and surveying efforts, and seeking funds. And then continuing to train contractors and move it to an online platform. So my last slide here is drawing parallels, and actually listening to the last presentation, the broom busters, I was like, oh, there's actually a lot of things we could learn from that presentation or from that group. So I think both of our groups could really learn from each other. But these are just some things I put up. Where can partnerships be made? Who's already working in invasive weeds that can come together and have a more focused approach to Scotch broom removal or projects? Who can be pulled together to make demo projects happen so the local community you're in can see that it can happen, that it is successful. It's really just, it's a commitment. I think both broom and gorse, it's going to be a commitment. If you're going to buy property that has an invasive problem, you gotta commit to managing that problem. And I don't know if it's feasible to hire, a coordinator for information sharing, and then have that person, build a website for Scotch broom that just holds all the information for people to easily go to, and it's all in one spot. And that's what's nice about our website, is that if you have a gorse question, you just go there, and every little thing about gorse is on that website. And then who can you go to for mapping efforts? I'm not sure exactly what watersheds or soil and water districts you guys have, or if they work in the weeds or not. But in Oregon, those are the people that are doing these early detection rapid response projects and the mapping and surveying efforts. And then we all come together and share those with the GAG. And then with regional efforts, I actually think there is a lot of room for Oregon and Washington to work together. For example, weed wash station is something that has been on our minds for a long time, but trying to really look into that, it's a big undertaking, but at the same time, weeds know no boundaries. So I think if we could get the Western states to band together for a project like this, that would be like such an amazing thing to see happen.
I agree with you. That would definitely bring everything together. I see you have one more bullet point, so hurry quick.
Well, and just like how we came to the city of Bandon and wanted and pushed to update their ordinance, I encourage folks in Washington to look at their city and county ordinances and is there a vegetation ordinance in place? Is there exemptions for Scotch broom? And just encourage them to update those and take out those exemptions. But before doing that, make sure there's a plan in place. It's not just, an excuse to fee your community, So, Absolutely. All right, so that's everything.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I really liked your presentation also. And some of the key points that really hit home with me was about the cooperation. You have so many different facets and talking to so many different people that you're bringing together. And that is so important. I really appreciate that. And of course, one of my favorites is the pub night. I thought that was pretty awesome. I could see a whole noxious weed trivia or something of that nature.
Yeah, it was standing room only that night too. It was crazy.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing. We're going to go ahead and move on.